Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
We're here for what would be the fourth
week
of Lent, but the fifth week of our retreat based on exercise 17
of the Ignatian Workout for Lent by Tim Muldoon.
Yeah, there's a lot of numbers to keep track of in this thing.
Right. So we're going to start with a piece of scripture from the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 8, 23 to 27. So I'm going to read that. When Jesus got into the boat, his disciples followed him. A windstorm arose on the sea, so great that the boat was being swamped by the waves. But he was asleep. And they went and woke him up, saying, "Lord, save us. We are perishing." And he said to them, "Why are you afraid, you of little faith?" Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was dead calm. They were amazed, saying, "What sort of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him?" So this particular passage comes from a chapter that Timothy Muldoon titles "Calming the Storm."
Mm-hmm.
And when I read this morning, I was struck by it because it reminded me of a storm that I dealt with about 10 years ago. I was diagnosed with colon cancer on a summer evening in Chula Vista, California. I had just come from Tijuana. And the doctor, with no bedside manner, came to my room and he said, "You have cancer. We found something in your colon, and you can't go home, and we're going to have to do a colonoscopy on you tomorrow, and you're just going to have to stay here." And that was a really scary moment. And yet at the same time, I felt really calm. And I felt like everything would be okay. So the boat was rocking back and forth, but even within the rocking back and forth, I found a lot of peace. And I had a distinct feeling inside myself that everything would be okay. And it was. I mean, I did 6 months of treatment and then at surgery and then 6 months of treatment. It wasn't always an easy ride over that year, but it came out okay. And now 10 years later, I continue to be healthy. And I really do think it was because of faith and believing in Jesus, who was in the boat with me.
Mm-hmm.
And there was nothing that we couldn't do. We did everything together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what came to mind when I read that this morning.
Oh. Well, when I read it, what it made me think about was how last night in our RCIA group, so our elect and our candidates right now, are getting, closer to baptism, closer to making their profession of faith and coming into the church. And they were sharing, some of them, about how they have been noticing that in some people's cases, they would say they're almost like under spiritual attack. In others' cases, they would just say a lot of stuff is kind of going sideways and trying to distract them and pull them off course. And so when I read this, I was thinking about that and how this is such a good passage, and Tim's reflection is so good because it's really about how to stay focused, and we tell them that all the time, stay focused in faith and stay focused on Christ and allow him to be your peace even in times of whatever disturbance you're going through or whatever storm you're going through. Notice how Jesus remains calm through this storm as everyone around him is freaking out. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's what we tell our people. Just whatever you do, don't lose sight of Christ and don't veer off this path. Just keep moving forward and let Jesus be your calm in this storm. So today's prayer that goes with this is speak to God of the storms in your life, the experiences that make it difficult to remain faithful to the call Jesus has given you. And that's the part I really liked, because of course all of our folks in our CIA right now are answering a call that Jesus has given them to come to himself, to come to the church. Bring what is secret before Jesus and ask him to drive the storms away. And the action is to use an experience of a storm as an opportunity to give thanks to God. Also an interesting take on this. Become aware of your natural desire to react negatively, to lash out in anger or hurt. Take time to invite God into the experience and see it the way Jesus saw the storm. So that's your assignment for this week.
I just want to say something. It's interesting that he talks about the, like being grateful, right?
Right.
And I think that's a good, like antidote, something to do when you're caught in a place of despair or the time of a storm, is to remember all the ways in which God has been a blessing, or how God has continued to provide grace, so that we can remember that during a storm, God has been faithful once before and will continue to be faithful.
And again, that ties to the spiritual exercises.
It does.
Of using gratitude every day, looking back on your day with the eye of gratitude.
Exactly.
So, so it all kind of ties together.
Very well.
So everyone, have a good rest of your week. And I will see you on Sunday. I think you're not here this weekend,
I'm not
right?
here this weekend, no.
That's right. So Father Gary will be with us. And I hope you have a good time away.
Thank you.
See you all.
See ya.